All right, so we're here with Patrick Wardle, the Director of Research at Synack, and we're at an RSA conference, and you dropped a little bit of news last week, another aspect to this whole hacking team story. Found a dropper out there for the backdoor. You published a report and analysis on it. What's going on there? We thought we were rid of these guys.
Yeah, and that was my assumption too. So when I saw this new sample, I was definitely kind of surprised. But it looks like it's maybe they're back from the dead or back from the near dead. The sample I analyzed, in the initial dropper, they used some new techniques. Most notably, they started to make use of Apple's native encryption scheme. So OS X supports encryption natively. Apple uses it as a proprietary scheme, so we really haven't seen any other third-party using it. We thought that we might see some malware using it. It's a neat way to protect your samples. The fact that hacking team jumped on and kind of used that was probably the most notable feature, and the fact that they were back.
Yeah. So do we know that it's them or somebody that's kind of co-opted something that's out there?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. My gut would be it's them. It is possible that someone could have taken the leaked code, recompiled it, but in order to use the native Apple encryption scheme, you got to have at least some level of skill. Also, it looked like there were some changes to the implant that they installed. A lot of overlap, and still some updates to that to check for new versions of the operating system. So again, it's possible that someone did that, but I'm really not sure why anyone did that. And also, I've talked to some other people that seem to have indicated that maybe the samples from virus may have come from some testing or something. So there's that weird kind of wrinkle there too that again might indicate that the hacking team is somewhat involved.
So the implant or the payload, what are we looking at there? Is it basic spy gear kind of stuff? Or something a little?
It's kind of basic and it's kind of not. I mean, it's basic in the sense that the techniques they use aren't anything earth-shattering. However, it's definitely very, very comprehensive. So in that term, it's somewhat more advanced. And it's all about surveillance. So gathering, chat logs, emails, basically as much as they can gather. I think their customers are very interested in surveillance and any kind of data. So to see a piece of malware, especially out of X10, that does that is kind of unusual.
Do you have a sense of how much it's out there?
No, unfortunately not. I mean, looking back at the leaks, we obviously saw them selling to a broad range of governments. Yeah. But, I really wasn't into that, especially you would think that some of those same governments might be a little leery now because hacking team got hacked and all these relationships were exposed, so there might be some trust.
Right. How was their offset? Was it easy to kind of ferret out what they were doing?
I can only really talk to the kind of OPSEC or the self-protections of the implant itself. And, they have some custom hackers, and the fact that they were using Apple's encryption scheme is notable. I mean, an adversary, or an analyst rather, can fairly easily get around all that stuff. But, again, it's kind of a bar above the norm. So it seems like he's kind of there.
Yeah. Is it to their advantage to use Apple's encryption scheme that way because it's there?
And that's an excellent question too. So there's always a trade-off. At this point, I don't think it is. I've released some tools, and one of them can show you all processes on your system that are using this encryption scheme. And obviously, you see all the Apple ones, and if there's something that's not signed by Apple proper that has that, that's super, super suspicious. So on one hand, it does provide, hinders and complicates analysis, but on the other hand, it kind of sticks out as a red flag. So you could maybe generically use that. So from that point of view, I wouldn't recommend other people use that technique.
Have you dug around in Apple's encryption like that before, or was this kind of an opportunity?
So I talked to Black Hat last year about OS X malware, and I actually suggested if malware authors wanted to use some kind of encryption and didn't want to write their own, this was an option. So maybe hacking team listened. So I had some experience with that. It was interesting because the tool I was releasing, I just thought, hey, it would be cool to have this tool in case someone started using it. And as I was beta testing the tool, hacking team comes along with an example that actually uses the Apple encryption. So that was kind of a lucky coincidence. But yeah, I've dug into it, so I feel like my understanding is reasonably well.
Homegrown crypto is always a bad idea, no matter who you are. Right?
That's true. I mean, I think there's some other options like environmental key generation. We saw some of the Gauss and Flame malware using some stuff like that. So I think, malware authors want something a little secure. Maybe I shouldn't suggest that. That's what I
no hints. Just to dig into the Apple FBI story a little bit. I know most of your work focuses on OS X, but What's your sense for Apple's capabilities in terms of if they have to do this, wanted to do this?
Yeah.
How much of an endeavor is it?
That's a great question. I really don't think it's that much work for Apple. I think my personal opinion is both sides are definitely playing this up for their own advantage. Obviously, both sides have from a purely technical point of view, is my understanding is Apple could probably pretty easily take that phone from the FBI, go in the lab, push some signed firmware, grab what the FBI wants, and give just that data perhaps back to the FBI without having to build some GovOS backdoor or whatever. So from a technical point of view, I don't think it's that complicated. Obviously, they don't control the resistance, and that's a simple right.
And I mean, we've heard some research talk about digging into the silicon, going into the chip and everything. I mean, that's like super complicated, risky.
Yeah, I mean, you see the FBI talking a lot about this, but other intelligence agencies haven't really commented on it. So it's kind of interesting.
Chances are they don't want to do it, whether they can do it or not.
Yeah, I can't really comment. But yeah, that would be a reasonable assumption.
Right. Best guess how that might turn out?
Oh man,
that's kind of out of your.
I'm really not
from a technical
sure.
standpoint, though. I mean, what kind of there's legal, moral precedent that might say. But from a technical point of view, I mean, what's any lessons here?
I think companies should definitely consider themselves and their own adversarial models. Like we've seen Apple talking about designing systems. Originally, they came out and said, "Hey, we can't technically do that." I think they definitely can. And in the future, they might be able to build more secure systems that even if the FBI came to them and said, "You have to do it," they can. And I think another important thing is the FBI might not get this to go their way. And in the future, if there's ever, say, a terrorist attack with a locked phone involved, they can point to this and say, "Hey, we tried, you really can't blame us." So again, just playing all these different angles to play their butts maybe in the future.
What would that look like if Apple tried to update iOS and remove some of these kind of loopholes of the FBI or anybody else?
Yeah, I mean, so the key thing right now is that secure enclave, and Apple can push signed firmware to update that. So maybe they could do things where they can't do that. That would be problematic to trade off if they ever needed to update it, maybe even. But I'm sure there's a myriad of technical things that they could burn something to a chip that even then they couldn't access it.
Right.
So then the only option would still be low-level silicon chips, which may be out there. But Apple could then reasonably and honestly say, technical point of view, we can't do this. In that case, I think that would be mysticism.
Yeah, because Apple can update the firmware even if it's not
correct.
That's one avenue.
Yeah, exactly. So I think there's definitely options for them, and I think they're really thinking about this because it would almost be somewhat more of a closed case if they were like, "Hey, we really can't do anything." Then the FBI might apply more pressure and be like, "Well, you have to build this."
Yeah.
But we've seen the NSA say this is a bad idea. I'm sorry, the former NSA. The security risk is very interesting case.
Yeah. So just as a last thought, you usually drop some interesting research. What are you working on from a high level? Anything you can share in terms of? I know you've taken some swipes at OS X.
Yeah, definitely. It's the gift that keeps on giving. So I have some other interesting things I'm digging in. I've also looked at some security tools for OS X. So I found some vulnerabilities there. So hopefully I'll be talking about those in the future once those get fully patched. But we've seen the Google Project Zero guys find a lot of bugs in security products, and it's hard to write security products. So there's popular ones on OS X that unfortunately have some issues as well. So stay tuned.
Good stuff to look forward to. Thank you, Pat.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it.